All right, thank you. All right, so we'll get started. Good evening. Today is Thursday, May 7th. We are convening the Town of Fairfield Board of Finance meeting. We've got a fairly full agenda, so I'm hoping that we can move things through fairly quickly. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the pledge. Mr. Ellwanger, lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with, let's see, it looks like we've got DPW Director Frank Batiste, Engineering Manager Bill Hurley is here in person, Senior Civil Engineer Megha Jane, and Bond Counsel as well. This is to hear, consider, and adopt a bond resolution amending and restating a resolution entitled, this is long. Does anyone want to
Make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
basically, this is related to the Rooster River project, and we'll have Mr. Hurley take us through that. But it's to increase the funding on the bond by roughly 4 or 5 million. So, Mr. Hurley, welcome.
Hi, good evening, financiers. I'm Bill Hurley, Fairfield Engineering Manager, and on behalf of Megha Jane and Frank Batiste, the Town of Fairfield, I'm here to request additional funding for the Rooster River Flood Mitigation Project. The purpose of the project, I mean, I could go into a history, but I think in the interest.
I think we know this.
Okay, I just. Why do you need more money? Yep.
Yeah. So,
The purpose of this project is to address many neighborhood complaints and reduce flooding potential within the Rooster River watershed. In most cases, holding back stormwater runoff through retention, reduce flow rate, and reduce the amount of flooding for areas downstream. And they should benefit, and it should benefit most property and homeowners. The construction improvements would, I mentioned before, reduce the amount of flooding, reduce frequency of flooding, reduce property damage, improve access, and improve water quality. This bonding request is primarily for the upcoming construction of 2 projects, detention pond or installation at Child Wheeler Golf Course, which consists of 2 detention basins, and Tunxus Hill Park. These projects will be bid out in late May or early June. These projects are a portion of the Rooster River Master Plan. And in the backup packet, we have the cost estimates. The master plan also includes 7 other projects ranging from approximately $100,000 to $3 million. And I mentioned before, they are listed in the background information. Funding was originally requested for the initial portions to establish a foundation for future enhancements and collaboration, bolstering Fairfield's resilient and environmental stewardship. The cost estimates are guided by recent bid, operational changes due to the third-party request, including contingencies, incidentals, engineering, and the consultant cost estimate. Basically, let's see, if you look at it on 2 sides of, I guess, the finance ledger, we have the estimated cost, which for the 2 sites, including the incidentals, was approximately $6.2 million. That's based on, there was a previous bid that we had earlier this winter. And the estimate, the engineer's estimate, and the town estimate for Tunxus Hill Park, and a contingency of $1 million. So that gave us $7.2 million. The approved funding, we have $2.5 million of the Connecticut Urban Act grant. We have $750,000 of the MOU with City of Bridgeport. That was ARPA money. And then we have the previous bond, or the old ARPA transferred money of $2.5 million. So that gives us $5.75 million. So we're obviously short. One caveat is the Connecticut Urban Act grant involved like 5 different projects. And I just got off the phone with the DEP earlier this morning. And they had said that we can't use the whole 2.5 for just the two projects, so we have to reserve some for future. And so I explained to them that this would be roughly 60% of the project cost of the whole master plan. So they're basically going to allow $1.5 million of the 2.5 to be used for these projects.
And that's consistent with the backup. So
Right. So that, hence that's why the 2.45 million. Hopefully that is a relatively higher number. As I said, it has contingencies and whatever involved. To go, so that we can have that, so we don't have to go back to the boards for these projects. As I mentioned before, the request timeline is so that the contracts could be signed early July, assuming positive bids and stuff, and start construction for Tungus Hill immediately right after. And then for the contractor to provide the necessary documents, some permit submittals that are required, and to start the project on exactly September 20th, 2026, per the town and Bridgeport agreement. So that's why we're here today. I can go into any more information, but I think that covers it.
yeah, we'll open
I'm
it
here
up.
for any questions.
We'll open it up for questions. Questions for Mr. Hurley? And Ms. Myers?
So why were we so far off when we originally estimated this? Was it just because, did the scope expand, or did the prices go up, or did we just underestimate how much this is going to cost?
Well, some of the 5.75, the original amount, that was just based on funding. We had our estimates, and pretty much we're very close to those estimates, but obviously the recent developments, we're anticipating some price increases. We want, as I said, have contingency, and there was a little bit of a scope expansion because though it's located in Fairfield, Fairchild Wheeler Golf Course is owned by the city of Bridgeport. So when we bid it, when we bid it the first time, we tried to do it during the winter, they're off season. The winter that we had, there was no way we were going to even let them start construction. And so when the contractor had asked, could we start in May? We were like, no, the city of Bridgeport then is going to deny that and claim a severe loss of revenue from golf revenue. So it came upon an agreement with the city of Bridgeport that we would start the project September 20th, give them time to prepare for the closing of the 9 holes in that area where the construction. So there could be a savings there where you don't have to worry about golf balls or do extra protection or deal with golfers. They'll have the whole site to themselves, be able to get in and get out. So there might be some savings there too, but we honestly don't know.
And then just as a follow, was there a consideration of going back to the city of Bridgeport and asking for more than the 750?
Yes, we have done that. Right now, that's all they've been committed to with an MOU that we had established with them. If for some reason costs go up due to their demands or something like that, then we could ask for additional money on that. Another part of the project, which is part of the master plan, is there's going to be a soil or sediment removal. And so we can start a new MOU on that. We have it as we're kind of paying for it all now, but obviously that's a benefit to the city of Bridgeport as well. And when right now we have the survey done for that portion of the project, but we still have to apply for permits. So that's why that's kind of, I'll call it like phase 2 or the later phase.
I mean, I would just say that if there's going to be something that we're doing that we think that the city of Bridgeport would potentially should be kicking in, I would say before you do the work, you should be getting the MOU, not we'll just pay for it and then go ask for it later.
Oh, no, this is just so that we know we have enough, because it might be a reimbursement, whatever the MOU is decided for. As I said, I just wanted to, full disclosure of the complete master plan project. Yeah, we will have town officials involved in that and there'll be some negotiation. Hence, that's why we got the 750,000 begin with the first time. That was through negotiation with the first select woman at the time and mayor.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, looking at the backup, before this request for an increase, the sharing was 2.5 million for us, 750,000 for them. We've doubled 4.95 and they haven't moved. So I think Mr. Meyer's point is a good one, that to the extent that the first select woman or person and the mayor can update that MOU before work starts, as we have time between now and September 20. That would likely avoid a problem.
The other thing to mention too is Bridgeport has gotten grant money for other detention areas that do, eventually benefit the town. And so if they get any more money regarding Rooster River, where we're, closer to the town border or whatever, we'll get a benefit of that. And that will again be a negotiating tool, I'm sure. But certainly any grants that they apply for, we always will support them, and it's in our best interest. And same with them. They support getting our grants.
And I,
But they may pay us in advance to make sure that they have spent their money.
okay.
We
Mr. Elwin.
receive it.
Yeah, back to the grant. I guess the original project was for the 5.75 million, and of that, we were gonna get 3.25 in grants. So we had to then bond for 2.5 over fiscal years 27 and 28. Now, with this additional spend, would we be able to get more grant money and increase that from 3.5 to some higher?
It's possible. Sometimes I kind of call it like piggybacking on the grant. Might be possible, especially for one of the items that we have on the list that wasn't part of the original grant. We might be able to do that. We might be able to say that, hey, the grant was approved in 2023 or 2024, and obviously costs have gone up significantly. We can try that. Sometimes the state will say, no, that's they don't have the money either. But if they do, sometimes they have added on to that. The one that comes to mind, I think, is East Trunk Line, where we were able to get some money to start with by Mark Barnhart, and then we got a community grant, a different grant, but on top of that. So it is possible we can do that. So we'll definitely and always look into it.
A question for Mr. Harris. I guess, will this mean we'll extend out and with the bond issue 2 more years, the 2.45, or add it to what we were gonna bond for 20?
The entire project, there's money in the capital plan for the entire project. In terms of the timing, we'll have to look, the timing may have to get extended out. But the full project is in the capital plan.
I think, Mr.
We can adjust that, or is it possible maybe to split the bond where you do some of it and the rest of it maybe at the turn of the year, not fiscal year, but turn of the year.
And the contingency is 20%, right? So
Yeah.
that's helpful. Other questions? Yes, I do have a couple graphic related. I didn't see any maps in here. Where is the work being done for Tungus Hill Park?
Tungus Hill Park, if there's the upper park, which is the Little League, and then the lower park, which is the baseball/soccer fields and the little track that goes around. Well, after the track and after, let's see, if you're batting, that would be right field. There's wooded area there. And so in that wooded area, we would be constructing a berm, trap the water. There'd be minor excavation. There's no more than 3 feet, and some of it gets put back anyway. That's the maximum excavation. And there will be some loss of trees in there because you can't have a tree on a berm, but that's the location in the wood. Would not affect
the ball field at all.
No, actually, that was one of the holdups that we had with one of the permits. Is that they want to look at all alternatives, and one of the alternatives, can't you put the detention pond in the whole, the whole ball field? And we're like, well, then we would need $3 million just to relocate that, and then the parking area, the whole.
Yeah. Okay.
We finally convinced them of that.
And with respect to the Fairchild Wheeler Golf Course, is that, obviously you talked about doing this after September 20th or starting on September 20th, and they'll shut down that quarter. So that will allow, allow you to avoid having interfering with the play or the play work. But is it gonna actually change the golf course itself? Is the
For a golfer to play on those,
literally, are they, just like you don't want to put a detention pond in the middle of right field, like, are they putting this on the 17th green or?
all right, if you're familiar with the golf course, it's a large valley, and then in the bottom of the valley, there's the Rooster River, the beginning of the Rooster River.
Yeah.
And so that area, basically will go through a constructed weir where I have different layers, have a small pipe and an opening and then a larger opening and then a giant spillway for the real big storm.
Yeah.
And so it holds back water. Right now, we have pictures, just arbitrarily say that maybe on 50 feet of either side of the stream, it gets wet for a couple of days and then goes away. Here, now it might be 100 feet on either side of the stream. And again, within about 48 hours, it should drain where it's playable.
Which,
I think it's 13 and 17.
all 13 and 17?
Black 13.
The black?
Yeah, on the black.
13, 16.
By any means, if you want to, I could show the plans or we could.
No, I
post
just,
them. If you want to come to the engineering department, feel free. We'll show you anytime.
that's okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Did that. Any other questions? No. Okay.
I'm just asking for the relevance of,
Sure.
because does that help the residents of Fairfield by fixing holes 13 and 17 where it's a little wet for a couple days? Like, I don't understand why we're fixing a golf course.
No, we're not fixing.
How does this relate to the residents in Fairfield's flooding?
By creating, like a reservoir dam, you have the dam.
Okay.
Well, they'll be building an earth berm and a small, or a section of concrete dam.
Okay.
Right along about 25, 30 feet away from the property. And so that will block the water. So if all the water, say, was coming to me going back to the wall,
Yeah.
now I'm blocking it. And now the water stays on this side,
Okay.
so it doesn't go downstream. It may only hold it for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, the majority of it. But when we have these high intense storms, usually they last for about an hour is the worst case, where it just comes down, you can't even see 50 feet in front of you. And that's what it will do. It will hold that water and then let it go at a slower rate, therefore not impacting the downstream as much.
So that area of the golf course is typically very wet, but now it sounds like it's actually not going to improve the golf course. It's going to make it more wet.
It will make it wet for those times.
Storm.
That time.
All right. If we don't have any other questions, just to reiterate, backup for this item is the online backup is one. If this is the first item with backup. The full resolution is available in the backup. This item requires RTM approval and was approved unanimously by the Board of Selectmen on Tuesday, May 5th. So can I get a motion to approve this increase in the bond request? Mr. Nicolas, second by Mr. Stark. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. So we've got 7701. Great. With Jane absent and Mr. Wall abstaining. Great, thank you for that. Thank you. All right, the next item, Tom, our CFO, Tom Harris, will be taking us through, I don't know if Bishop on the line. He is, okay, so this is to hear and consider and act upon a request from the CFO to transfer funds in the amount of $2,336 from the assessor fees and professional services account to the Conservation Department capital outlay to cover additional funds necessary to purchase a boat for use by the town's conservation crew. The backup for this item can be found on line 10. Can I get a motion to hear this item? Mr. Elwanger and second by Ruggiero. Okay, so I'm guessing this is the item that we talked about.
This
during
is the
budget
item
session.
we discussed on the budget, and Mr. Bishop has a boat that is no longer floatable, and the proposal is to transfer funds to purchase a boat. And the funding sources are listed. We have a quote for the boat. The quote was dated earlier this year, but we've confirmed that that quote still is effective.
Good. Okay. And I see you get not just the quote for the boat, but also
The funding
the
sources.
funding sources. Great. Okay. Any questions on this item? Yes, Mr. Giero.
So I know when we went through the budget, we had talked about this and said that we were gonna do this transfer. I thought the number was a little bit bigger. I thought it was a couple thousand more, but why are we taking it, like, why is it coming out of the assessor's fees? Is that where you just have an excess?
We have excess funds there. We've actually made a transfer for, I think a vehicle purchase earlier. But we had budgeted funds there for the revalve, and we don't need all of those funds, so those funds are available.
Okay, so we're taking it out of that, because we have excess. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Myers.
And then the current boat, is there any trade-in value for that?
I don't believe so, but I'll ask Mr. Bishop to speak to that. I don't believe there is.
Mr. Bishop.
Good evening. Thank you. Just to answer your question, there is, I don't foresee any value. We will salvage the motor. So we have a backup. We also have we'll retain that as a spare. But other than that, the wood is rotten and has holes beyond patching. So I will turn that over to the DPW fleet manager and dispose of it.
Okay.
Mr. Walsh.
I have a couple of questions. The first is, why is there excess funds in the assessor's office?
We had,
How do you know that they'll still be there on June 30th? Like, what the biggest disaster, Tom, would be if they ever needed to transfer money afterwards, because then we'd be looking at you saying, you made us look like idiots. Okay, so
right now, when we looking at making the purchase for the vehicle, looking at the actual cost spent versus what was needed for the remainder of the year, there was about 200,000 that was left to be spent, which we believe we don't need. We transferred some of that to purchase a vehicle. We transferred an additional amount to fund the cost for the secretaries who are taking minutes for the BAA. So we still have excess funds in that account right now. And the 2,000 or 3,000 would not impact that.
Yeah,
So
2006.
so what would be the total excess in that, they had in that account?
it's around 200,000.
How could they be off by that much?
Because again,
Seriously, that is a large number to be off on.
because really the cost of the revalve, a lot of that was covered earlier than was expected last year. So
And we have known that by the budget season last year.
We would have done the budget work in March and the fiscal year. Right.
When did we have to bid on that work to be done?
the bid was 2 years, this began 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, so why didn't we know a more accurate number then that they put in the budget? We should have known that.
Well,
We said, because that's what my next question was gonna be, so I'm glad we got there. We should have known that number, and our board during the budget season from last year should have had accurate figures to put in a budget, not overstating that budget item, but which turns out to be $200,000.
Well, again, I can speak to what we believe to have been true when we did the budget. And, I don't know the details. I don't recall all of the details of what we were looking at when we did the 2025 budget. But I do know that in talking with Mr. Murray, that was the best guess in terms of what we thought the cost would be at that point. And the actual cost just ended up being less than we had anticipated.
Through our chair, I'd like to go back and try to figure that out. I have no faith then in these numbers that you're saying at the administration putting in the budget, if they're so far off. We had numbers, we were quoting stuff and getting quotes for it 2 or 3 years ago. We had numbers, we had printed documents. I'd like to see what those numbers.
And those are the numbers that,
compared to what the
those are the numbers that we used. The numbers that he received are the numbers that were put into the budget.
So the company that we hired all of a sudden went down by $200,000?
I will meet with Mr. Ross and give you a full report.
Okay. You have to get confidence in these budget numbers to be accurate. And for it to be off by $200,000 is a lot of money.
What was the total number?
The total, I think it was Mr. Ross said, I think 700,000.
For fees and professional services.
Yeah, related to the, reval.
It was.
Can we have him come up?
Mr. Murray,
Mr. Murray, do you mind joining us, at the table? Mr. Murray, our, town assessor, thanks for joining.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. And you're asking what the actual cost was or what we were budgeting?
I think,
Yeah, because you had been receiving money and quotes and all sorts of stuff. Because you guys, the town was deciding who was to you being used to be our vendor in that. Right? And there was the whole process. People were building it through a purchasing policy, right?
Right, we went through an RFP.
Yeah, how could we be off by 30% on numbers that you knew last budget season?
I don't think, I'd have to look at the timing, but I don't think we had those numbers locked down at that point.
Okay, can you get us all that information?
Plus, the way we structured it, we did not do it on a fixed cost.
Okay.
And the hope was we would save money, and we did.
So explain to me how it was adjustable. Like, how was that cost variable if it wasn't done on a fixed cost? So
This was a reval where we had to do verification of all property, all the characteristics of properties.
Mhm.
That is typically done by boots on the ground, people going to every door, which is extremely costly. As I've probably said before, the entry rate when doing it that way is 5% from the towns I spoke to that have done revals over the previous leading up to our reval. So poor results. You only see the outside anyway. So I went down a different avenue where we use data mailers. Mail them a data mailer, we ask everyone to verify their data. And if they return a data mailer and it's satisfactory, we do not need to go to the house. We had an extremely strong return. We had about an 85% return rate on our data.
so,
So that saved money.
so to cut to the chase, you
Saved
budgeted for,
We did not have to go to those 85% of houses. We did go to a sampling to verify the data mailers as a quality control. But for the most part, that group of properties did not have to get visited.
Okay, what was the number of quality, what percentage did you guys choose as being?
2%.
2% of the houses you went to out of the 85 that you got, 85% you got back. Okay, so when did you know you were gonna do that?
Do the 2%, the quality control.
No, when did you make the decision? I am going to bid this job as though I'm going to have the company go to every single house, visit every single house. When did you switch to the model where you said, you know what, that's not a very accurate way to do it. I'm gonna switch it so that I do data mailers, which then we know
It was
gonna
part of the
save a
RFP
tremendous
process.
amount of money. What?
It was part of the RFP process. We had them bid it both ways.
Okay,
We could evaluate the cost.
okay. So you had both numbers. How did that bigger number get in there?
That was the number we started with back when we started the process
Okay.
3 budget cycles ago.
Okay.
Sure. What
And when was the decision made? And was it by you or people from the administration as well, that we're not gonna go to visit every single house? We are now gonna do data mailers. When was that decision made and who made that?
When the award for the RFP. And that was done by Bill Gerber, Frank's last name, our budget director, and myself. Those were the 3 of us were the panel.
Okay. And Frank's been gone for a while, so that had to be when?
I think it was all the way.
It was a 3-year.
In 24. Okay. So in
We did the interviews in, I think, the late spring. and we finally got everything nailed down late summer.
So that was 24. In March of 25, this board gets the budget that starts that July of 25. And that's the budget that we're saying there's extra money in by $200,000.
But in March of 25, we don't know how many data mailers are gonna be returned. We don't know how many houses we're gonna have to physically visit.
So you budgeted for a conservative number, so as not to run short. Okay, well, I mean,
Man, we do that all the time.
Yeah.
I said, we do that all the time and because we don't want anyone ever coming back to say,
I was worried. I didn't know if that was gonna work out in our favor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it worked. It's a good problem to have.
You made the decision, I'm gonna keep the full amount in, so if the data mailers came back and there wasn't enough, you'd have enough money in your budget to go visit every single house in the town of Fairfield,
had a contingency in that budget.
for that large an amount.
I don't know what the exact numbers were. I don't have them in front of me, obviously. Wasn't
All right,
prepared.
when you have a chance, can you prepare that and get it to Mr. Harris? And I'd just like to see it because it's just, things like this keep popping up. Thing with your department, he pops up. Because if that's the way it's gonna go and we have no idea this board, then the next time one of these comes, I'm gonna cut 20% off your budget for fees and professional services. I gotta guess.
Or we'll just do a fixed cost and then we won't have to,
Exactly.
we'll pay more and we won't have to worry about it.
Or you do a fixed cost and now you know it's successful. So now we automatically know it worked, right? So the next time you're gonna do data mailers. So you don't even have to bid it a second time.
Mr. Walsh, if I can interject for 1 second, I think we've asked for additional information. The assessor can compile how he developed the budget.
Yeah.
I think it's a valid question when you see an actual and budget item in either direction missed by 200,000, it's worthy of inquiry. But it does take us away from the point of this item on tonight's agenda. So with all due respect, if we could try and get back to $2,300 transfer related.
I'm gonna get to that now. So why are we now jumping into budgets and purchasing capital items? And I'm not saying, I think that I heard the argument by Tim Bishop of why he would never step foot on that boat during the budget, and I don't blame him. But why are we making decisions when we don't even know where this year is gonna go, or we're already taking money? Because we've not really done that before, Tom. We've not really jumped in mid-year, said, we've had surpluses where we knew they were gonna be $8 or $9 or $10 million. And we haven't gone in mid-year and been like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna buy this car or truck over here. I'm gonna start giving money to buy a boat over there.
Yeah, because
Why wasn't that part of the budgeting process where capital items were put in and weighed against every other capital request in a budget?
well, they were, but I think there's an immediate need for both items that we are attempting to purchase. In the case of the vehicle, we had originally planned to put that in the capital budget. The individual who used that vehicle, his vehicle died, and we needed funds to purchase the vehicle. In the case of the boat, again, there's an immediate need. There's a lead time to buy the boat. It's gonna take, even if we buy the boat now, you won't get it until next spring. So, and the amounts are relatively small, given where we think we're gonna come out for the year.
But, Mr. Walsh, if I could just say, I understand the point. I just want to kind of steer this in a different direction, or focus it. And Jim, you've been around for a long time, as have you. I would have expected that over the course of the year, a budget, a given department may run over or under budget by a few $1,000s here or there. And at the end of the year, that's when it would typically come to this board where there's a little bit of cleanup activity, where there's transfers and it's a list of 20 pluses and 15 minuses, and it all that's where it all gets captured. So I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, Mr. Walsh, there should be no reason why this purchase can't be made. If it's urgent, make it. And then after the year's over, once the dust settles, if the department's over by $2,300 and we know with certainty that this other department has it, we can transfer it then. Is that your point that we should?
Well, actually, no, it's a little bit different. I think capital expenses should be budgeted, so they get weighed against every other capital, capital request, because this kind of, not exactly the same, but reminds me of Mr. Becker's car that he purchased himself, where it was outside the budgeting process, right? That left me, and I think most of the town, with a very bad taste in our mouth, that there's unbudgeted things that are just going on, and people are swapping money from one department to another to do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it, and capital projects are not being weighed against themselves. I heard Mr. Bishop made that argument, and I thought Tim, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I kind of thought at the time that we should just put it in the budget. We should just raise the budget if that's what people want to do, or it should be the next budget. I understood that he needs that boat. He said
Isn't that what we discussed though? What we talked about was putting additional funds in the fiscal year 27 budget. And then the discussion was, we don't need 35,000. We just need like 2 or 3. And then we said, oh, okay, well then we can.
I don't remember all those. Maybe you.
That was discussed. That was the discussion.
Oh, okay, you were.
Yeah, that was.
That may have been at a
Yeah.
budget
I
meeting
think
where
you
you
missed
were
that
not.
meeting.
Yeah, it
We
came
had
up.
said that he was gonna come back. We knew he was coming back this year, and I think there was an ask. We had agreed that we would support it at that, you know, it's gonna be a very small dollar amount.
Yeah.
And, I mean, taking the money out of this budget per se, this is all done. You already incur, like, you know that that's a solid, I mean, I understand waiting till the end of the year, but I don't really have a concern with taking it out of this budget because the fees are already, well, and we've already done the reval. We don't have lingering bills coming in. That was what the money was budgeted for. We know we're over. So I don't think you're gonna have 200,000 of mysterious expense coming in.
But this was discussed on the budget
Yeah.
process, and the discussion initially was to put it in the 27 budget. And the result
We
was
said even if there's extra money,
so
let's try to move it up.
move it up, yeah.
But it was probably.
Tom, if
going
you
to
didn't
go.
need to move this amount of money, it's only $2,000. But if you didn't need to move that from a budget that had an extra $200,000 in it, and we're taking some of that, if you didn't have to do that, you would have just purchased the boat. The town, the first select.
I would have done it, I don't know what I would not have done anything before I came to the Board of Finance. And I think if we didn't have funds available, he would have had to wait another year for the boat, and the prices would have gone up. You know, that's.
Come here, you wouldn't have had to come here. The only reason we're here tonight is over $2,000.
Transfer it.
But it's a transfer, you know, if it was,
You didn't need the 2,000 to transfer it, right?
if he had,
Am I missing something?
if he had funds in his budget, we probably would have,
Bought it.
Probably, I don't know. It's hypothetical, so.
Okay, it's just interesting that there's extra.
Well, we're trying to be transparent.
Extra money all over the place to buy
Transparent.
$30,000 budget, $30,000 to buy, a boat, that there's just extra funds to be able to do that.
Well, we've done this before. I mean, I recall when I was relatively new, we did a transfer to fund operating costs. It wasn't capital, from one department to another for Parks and Rec. So the process has been done before. The thing that's different this time is it's capital. But again, there's a need for it, and it's a relatively small dollar amount.
Any other questions or concerns? Make a motion to. Move on this item?
I'll move.
All right, Mr. Matola. Second. Mr. Rock. All in favor of approving the transfer of $2,336 from the assessor's fees and professional services account to the Conservation Department capital outlay account? 7, no's?
No.
And that's 7. Thank you. All right, item number 5 on the agenda, we're gonna have Mr. Hurley join us again. Ms. Harris, I have to admit, the agenda item is, it kind of jumps right to a resolution. Is this an action item? Is it to hear, consider, and act upon? Is it a voting item? It's not clear what this is.
I believe it's a voting item.
So I'll say to hear, consider, and act upon a request. This is to
If I can add, I think the reason why it's coming here is it's a grant that has already been awarded.
Yeah.
But because it's a reimbursable grant, town has to expend the monies first and then get reimbursed. So I think that's why.
Okay, so the online, or the backup online, it starts on page 12 for this item, but can you, Mr. Early, just give the board an overview of what the ask is here and what this is for?
Yeah, sure. And again, Mark Barnhart has been the one that's doing a lot of the work, but I think he had a conflict. He has a meeting, so he had asked me, since I'm familiar with this project as well. So basically, it was asking for consideration of a resolution to accept $1 million in State Urban Act grant funds in order to undertake roadway and pedestrian safety improvements in Hillsville areas. The project entails design of construction, proposed roadway, traffic calming, pedestrian safety improvements for portions of Reading Road, the intersections of Coles Farm Road, Cross Highway. The project is aimed at implementing these recommendations of a road safety assessment that was done back in August of 2023 and could include such elements as signs, reducing the radius at intersections, walking paths, one mini roundabout, median islands, anything to reduce vehicle speeds, reduce impervious surfaces, and enhance pedestrian and bicycle safety. The grant does not require a local match and is a reimbursable grant, 100%. The design has already started coming out of the Complete Streets Fund and DPW accounts. The consultant will develop safety countermeasures and design concepts at 7 study locations, including potential pathway location. Current update is, as it's even going on right now, the consultant has already started performing the traffic counts this week. We want to make sure we got them in before school lets out. Once completed, they will work with the town to analyze the data and start working on concepts. Sometime in mid-June, rough concepts will be presented, and we will hold a public informational meeting on those recommendations. Hopefully that explains.
It does explain it.
This mid-June, you're gonna have concepts already?
Concepts, yep.
Further questions? Yes, Ms. Frigio.
So this August 24th, the road safety, are we referring to that circle again?
Well, that was the road safety audit here. The RTM had requested a copy of the RSA, and so I had provided it to them last week, I think it was, or right before the RTM meeting. I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago. And I can do the same here.
So I'm just curious, we spent a lot of money on the circle.
Actually, we didn't, to be honest with you. We only spent about 15,000 on them. If you're talking about the roundabout, we only spent $15,000 on it.
On that roundabout,
Yeah.
because our engineers designed it, or how was it only 15,000?
It was done in-house by the engineering department, and it was done in-house by the DPW.
So it's a disaster. Have you gone by and looked at it? Like there's broken curb chunks all over and like divots with like water that pulls in the middle.
Frank is here to answer some of the specific details on it, but what I could tell you is, being honest, when you look at all the engineering manuals, they say you're supposed to design for what they call a single unit truck, like a UPS truck.
Yep.
With a radius of 30. We actually said there's a school nearby, so we designed it for school buses. We know there's a firehouse nearby, we designed it for a fire truck. And we did a demonstration and it worked. It worked. What we didn't count on was a lot of landscaping trucks, and I may have a picture on my phone where there's a dump truck with a trailer 60-something feet long that has a mini backhoe, a mini excavator, and the roller compactor, all on one trailer. We didn't design for that. So
That's
that's
why
the
you had to
reason why
redo
the
the curbs, because they were
Yeah.
straight as opposed to on an angle.
There's different philosophies for that. When the consultant is actually going to, as part of the 7 studies, they will investigate or evaluate and recommend either additional, modifications, which we already have. And we presented to the Board of Selectmen some of those modifications. They may agree or they may not with those modifications or any alternate improvement. It could be a retrofit, it could be a redesign. We'll have them look at that.
So the $1 million is coming from, it says State Urban Act. Is it coming from the state of Connecticut?
It's come from the state of Connecticut.
It's not an individual, like a person making a personal donation.
No, that's something that may happen separately, but right now, this is just a $1 million grant that was passed by the Connecticut legislature.
Specifically for Greenfield Hill.
Yeah, for Greenfield Hill and Reading Road improvements, based on the two fatalities, unfortunately, that have happened.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally understand that. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Mattila.
So I think you said this already. So basically, this is you're gonna be looking at road improvements from Hulls Highway up to Cross Highway on Reading Road. And part of whatever concepts you're gonna look at may be addressing some of the issues with that roundabout. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's fair to say.
Because it does have some issues there. Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, yeah, Mr. Walsh.
Hey, Bill, thanks for coming. You said, there's some stuff in here regarding road calming. Are you guys talking about like road diets up there again? Like that you've been putting around town?
The road, Reading Road is 4 feet wide. We wouldn't be able
I don't
to,
see how that can really happen.
It's the slimmest.
but not in a road diet, but there might be, I'm gonna just use an example off the top of my head. Merwin's Lane, as you come down Reading Road, it's a very wide radius. I mean, you could fly without kind of slowing down and making the 90-degree turn. You almost do like a 45-degree sweep.
Yeah.
And so that might be one of the things that where they just realign the intersection, tighten it up so that you have to kind of go slower, not to a complete crawl, but at least slow down to reasonably 20, 25 mile per hour like you're supposed to. Yeah.
You said stuff about bicycles. Are there gonna be any bicycle lanes? I
Uh,
don't see the room for that either.
No, we don't. Well, on that, there would probably be some warning signs, there's a pavement marking called the Sharo, which again, it's really just to heighten awareness that there's bicyclists that use the roadway as well.
Okay, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
There's no road widening planned.
No more road.
And then don't make
Sidewalk.
Not that I'm aware of. There may be a pathway or something like that, but that would be
By
determined.
pathway, like a dirt pathway, or is it like, when you do that, you make it out of?
That's to be determined. That's
Okay.
to be determined. We don't know that
All right,
yet.
thank you.
Okay. Did you have one?
Are speed cameras being considered?
A lot of the grants, and certainly the federal grants will not pay for or use any of the speed cameras. I believe the police department already has one right at Dwight School.
Okay, good.
So,
You have it at Dwight.
and they have it on some other locations.
5 miles an hour, don't go over.
Yes. And they have more in the hopper that they're waiting for the state to review, so they can cover all the schools, not just certain.
Thank you.
So, the request is to, have us approve the acceptance of this reimbursable dollars. Can I get a motion? Mr. Rock, second. Mr. Walsh, all in favor? Unanimous. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley. Appreciate that. Okay, item number 6 on the agenda is to hear and discuss our independent auditor's report on the fiscal year 2025 audit. With us tonight is Mr. Joe Santafanti from PKF O'Connor Davies. Online, the backup for this online, starting on page 37. Mr. Santafanti, or can I get a motion to adhere to that? Mr. Walsh, second by Myers.
Can I ask a question before Mr.
Of course.
starts? We're just getting this tonight. It's over 150 pages long. We normally have this in advance so that we can review it and ask questions. Could we adjourn this to another night? I mean, it makes no sense that we would get this.
The
tonight.
reports are online. And Mr. Matola asked me to bring hard copies tonight, but they've been online. And I think there was a memo that went out said that they are available online. And if you want a hard copy, to let me know.
We also can, we can hear the presentation this evening, and to the extent that there are questions on the presentation, we can have that real time. If there are questions on the actual report, we can have those as follow-ups.
And just, I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Walls. This year, this whole process was, let's say, screwed up a little bit. It was, we had a delay in the audit being completed. I think some of the reasons were because Mr. Harris's department had new personnel there, and it was harder for Mr. Sedafani to get the information because we had new personnel in that department. Normally, just for everyone's understanding, is we would get a draft of the audit in December, early January, and then the audit committee would have Mr. Sedafani come before us and give a presentation on the draft. That didn't happen this year because
Well, like, that's a good point, John, but the question, I guess, is why didn't that still happen? Why could that have not have happened in February, March, April? We're sitting here in May, at all this time, we should have met. We haven't met as a body, as a group, since we've been appointed.
we didn't get, the audit wasn't done until March,
March 31st.
March, right in the middle of the budget season. And we were just really busy with the budget, and you can blame me for this, Jim, that's fine. I thought for this year, we're gonna have Mr. Sedafani was gonna come before the full board anyway, and here he is. I thought this was emailed to everybody a few weeks ago. So, again, you can criticize me a little bit, I'll take it. I understand. Now the presentation, and if we have any questions, we can do a follow-up with Mr. Sedafani, and even do a follow-up with Mr. Sedafani or the audit committee, if that's okay.
Great.
And in fairness to Mr. Matola, he's fallen on the sword a little bit. I asked him, now that the budget was over and we didn't meet in April, if we could try and get him in as soon as possible for the full board, so that, I mean, in theory, everything's delayed. What could have happened is the audit committee could have met in May, had this discussion, and then this board would have had this meeting in June or later. I just wanted to get it in front of everybody, so.
Okay. Do we have a commitment by the finance department that this will not happen ever again?
I will never, I cannot commit to ever. I would say if we are staffed, then our goal will be to meet the deadline.
If you're staffed, this has never happened, Tom, in 25 years.
There have been delays in getting the reports. There have been extensions. There was one in 22, been at least two before. Not the first time.
22.
Probably COVID.
I don't know, but it's happened twice before, is my understanding.
Was that because of
I
COVID?
don't know, I was near 22.
Okay, I'll call Ms. Bossy privately and I'll find out.
And again, we can meet as a committee, if you would take a look at this, and then I'll reach out to you guys and we can.
Why don't as a committee, we come up, when we meet about this, we come up with a date, December, when we can tell Tom we're
Sure.
meeting about it.
Absolutely.
This way we give him plenty of time, because there's just deadlines that are being met. I mean, we just had one where the budget wasn't also published on time. So we need to really like lock this process down.
All right, well, Mr. Santafanti, thank you for your patience, and welcome.
Sure. You want me to just kind of walk through the document, the
Yeah.
presentation?
That would be great.
Okay. So I'm just gonna start off on page 3 there, just the highlights, some things that are different as compared to last year. The debt
And-
service
and-
fund.
Mr. Santafanti, let me, excuse me for one moment. Is it possible, I don't know if you have this on your screen and if you could share your screen with this board, that way people from the public could also follow along. If that's not possible, as mentioned, the backup for this item is available online starting on page 37. But if you could share your screen, I think that would be helpful.
I'm not set up to do that
Okay.
because I assumed normally somebody at the meeting is presenting.
Yep, no, that's fine. Okay, so if we're able to follow along online, we can do that. So you mentioned page 3, the highlights for fiscal year 25.
Correct. Yep. So the debt service fund was reclassified to be a major fund. So basically it moved from the back to the front, and that's based upon the amount of dollars that are in that fund. Now it reached the limit of 10% of some other things. So the calculation moved it from the front to back. So it's because of the high dollar amount in the fund currently. Gatsby.
Can we stop right there? Mr. Senafani, what's that rule about 10%?
It's just a gap rule of what gets reported where in the report. So if it's 10% of the total of assets, liabilities, revenues, or expenditures, it gets reported up front and requires a full audit as compared to in the back. It's grouped in with a lot of other things. So it's just a technical auditing standard of how we have to audit. So the larger dollars, the standard says the larger funds have to be audited separately, and then the rest of the funds get put in one bucket to be audited. Also, last year, GASB Statement 101 compensated absences was effective, and that resulted in a prior period adjustment. So the standard changed of how the calculation was done from a vesting perspective to a expected use perspective, which increased the liability substantially. GASB 104 was implemented also. Most of that was disclosure related for the town. There was no prior period related to that. Heart and hypertension liability was reclassified to the internal service fund. So that resulted in, again, a prior period adjustment. And the prior period adjustment, that those details are on page 100. So the other highlights is that in the management discussion and analysis. So I just recommend, if you're looking for just a very high level, what were the significant things that happened during the year and changes as compared to prior year, that's a good overview of the major financial related events from last year. So the opinion on the financial statements was unmodified, which is the type of opinion that you're looking to get. Looking at the general fund on exhibits C and D for the GAAP basis, the unassigned fund balance was 44.5 million. That's on page 24. Total fund balance was 128 million. So this, based upon the town's policy, to maintain your fund balance at the 11.76%, as which again was the same as the last year and the last several years. And the net change on fund balance was the 731,000, which again increased your fund balance to stay at the 11.36%. So with the drivers of that, there's revenues. Again, most of the revenues were transferred to affect this. So the final variance of revenues was just 526,000. Expenditures that were under budget by 698,000. The largest departments that made up that were the administrative and general at 239, finance at 108, and the debt service at 187,000. So on page 6 is the internal service funds. So this looks a little bit different, and part of the differences that you see again is the result of moving the activity of the heart and hypertension liability, and then activity into internal services compared to prior year. So it changed your current ratio, but you still have above one, you have twice, so you still have a good cushion again. And remembering this is June of 25. The claims payable went up significantly because the 24 numbers are not restated. So the liability that moved is about 3,561,000. So that's driving a lot of the change in claims payable. It also drove some of the claims amount in the prior year. You originally had it actuarially calculated, the estimates went down. So in 25, they went up significantly. So the gap is a lot bigger because of the decrease in the prior year. So your net position after after the restatement at year end was the $2.6 million. Again, so since the liabilities are booked at the estimate, that's a reasonable cushion. Again, remembering this is workers' comp uh, and medical, and then the heart and hypertension. It's all three, and plus general liability. So it's basically the four different pools of risk that you're self-insuring uh, with the net of the $2.6 million. So next several pages are pension and OPEB, and again, remembering it's June 25, that the market did did pretty well. So you had a significant increase um, in your funding percentage. So looking at your investment rate of return was up, 1.3% from the prior year, 11.61%. The other good trend that's happening is kind of opposite of the last several years, is your benefits as a percent of net position decreased a little bit, and then your funded ratio, and this is the employees plan, went up 2.36%. So then looking at the police plan is very similar results based upon net invested income, change in market, kind of drove um, up your net position. Uh, Same trend where the benefits went down a little bit as a percentage. So your funded ratio in this case only went up 1% for this plan. And that's basically I think due to the claims, so, or due to the liability increasing. So OPEB for the employees plan had a significant increase. Again, not as much. Uh, Investment rate of return did go up almost 1%, and that generated um, a considerable amount. So almost 15% increase in your funded percentage from the 68 up to the 83%, which is you know a very good percentage funded for an OPEB plan. So, and then similar for the police plan. Again, the percentage for the police plan, usually the benefits are a little bit better. So you still had an increase of 6.5%, but the funded ratio is at 57%. So again, continuing to make progress on that. And we also did a federal and state single audit. So it's a smaller bound document if you have the bound document. So there's no findings or question costs. Again, an unmodified opinion. On compliance, the total expended was the 14.5 million, down from the 20.3 million last year. And most of that decrease is related to, I'm going to say, ARPA related or COVID related grants, ARPA money, and on the education side, the ESSER money is just those grants are winding down. So there's a decrease in what you spent. The programs that we tested were child nutrition and the ARPA grant. And Connecticut has a state single audit. Not all states do, but it's very similar. And it follows as far as the structure of as the federal. Again, no findings or question costs, unmodified opinion on compliance. Total expended about 16 million, last year 16.1. So pretty level there. The programs that we did audit is the tiered pilot program, the LoCIP program, paraeducator healthcare subsidy, which is an education program, the STEEP program, and the community connectivity program. Again, no findings or question costs. We did have a few recommendations. The one new one, which really came out of that payroll project that I did a couple years ago, but it was still the access controls still weren't changed. Certain people had super user rights and for internal control purposes that those should be removed once, you know, most implementations, everybody starts off with super user, but once it's implemented, it really should go to only rights needed to actually do their jobs. The education, grants fund, excess cost grant reporting, those are repeat comments for the past couple of years. Understanding, I guess, that there is a new team there. So, and we've had some conversations about that. So we're hopeful that those are addressed for the 26 audit. Just some are required communications, which is one of the other documents. It just talks about that there are significant estimates in the audit. We do audit the estimates. The significant estimates are the pension liability, the OPEB liability, the environmental liability, and this year the compensated absences liability because of the significance of that number, which is calculated using a lot of estimates. So new accounting policies really, again, relate to the implementation of those two GASB statements we talked about, the compensated absences and disclosure of the capital assets, which is a little bit more detail in your capital asset footnote. The significant disclosures, again, follow the significant estimates for the most part, pension, OPEB, environmental liability. Communicate said we are independent of the town and that there were no past adjustments that we didn't record for fiscal 25. As far as what's coming up for next year, GASB 103 and 104 are effective. Again, we kind of early implemented 104 for the town, so we don't really expect any changes. The only part that would be a change if there's an asset held for sale that's not in your capital assets already, it would have to get moved into the capital assets versus being held outside that. That's just an accounting thing. GASB 103 model improvements impacts the proprietary funds. So this would have been the parking authority, which understanding that that's not going to be an issue for 26, but for the internal service funds we talked about, that's considered proprietary. So this will change some of the financial statement presentation related to what's operating revenues versus non-operating revenues. So nothing really exciting there other than just presentation. And those are my highlights. Be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much.
Just a question. So, Tom, do you go through each page of these and sign off and tick and tie and look at every number and your team?
I go through the drafts and I write to-dos that I send, give out for follow-up, and then I follow up with us.
Do you have a hard copy of this in front of you? By chance?
No.
So on page 6, first thing that jumps out of me is my name is spelled wrong.
That's a disaster.
Honestly,
Each 6 of the.
yes. My name is spelled wrong. So I guess a recommendation for next year would be to check that more carefully. Because that's not cool. Right?
Yeah, well, several of us, that's a mistake. Yeah, several of us did check that, including myself.
So when I look at this, is one of the things I look at, like it makes me unsettled right off the top. I mean, that should not happen. GGIERO.
Okay.
0.
Well, yeah, I did look at that.
While we're on the names, I think if we use anybody's initials, let's use everybody's initials, just have a consistent policy on it. Why that's the case.
We can correct that. We can correct that.
My name? For the online version, if we can, I would definitely appreciate it.
I mean, there are a number of, if you go online, there are a number of reports that have been reissued because of corrections.
I don't need to incur any fees to the town or anything. I'm not looking for that. I just, if there's a way to just quickly fix the spelling of my last name for the online
do that online.
version, I would really appreciate it, but I don't need reprints or anything else or current costs for anything. Just for next year, if we could correct that, would be great.
Do you have something, Mr. Meyer?
Well, I mean, I was just gonna ask about the fees. So were there any additional fees incurred on this audit because of us being late?
There is, and I don't know if we've gotten the final bit, there was an additional fee of about $12,000. Is one invoice. Joe, I don't know if I'm correct on that. I know I saw a bill for additional fees for about $12,000, my recollection.
And that was an additional fee because of what?
Because assistance that was required to do some of the work because we're short of staff.
And what percentage is that 12,000 of the total?
It was 140, 150.
I think off the top of my head, the fee of this year was 140, Joe,
Yeah, I think
right
it's-
around there.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up, but 130 something.
About 10%.
So are you saying that our auditor had to do more work, so we got billed higher amount, or did you had to hire people?
He assisted with some, I mean, there are only certain things he can do to assist. But in terms of, helping with some schedules and giving guidance on some of the schedules, because we didn't have anyone who had the historical knowledge to do that, he was able to provide some support.
All right, Joe, were these reports that Caitlin had or did beforehand, or are these new reports that were never having to be done by the town?
These are reports that have been done by the town previously.
Why aren't they on the computer or
They weren't.
on our cloud?
They weren't on the cloud. Caitlin did have files that are on the server. But in terms of collecting the information, I mean, all of the files were not on the server. And some had to be created, but there were examples of many of them, and the ones that we didn't have, the auditor gave us the work papers from the prior year. So those were areas where they were able to assist.
But our controller, who's no longer with us, didn't he have to do this at his previous job? He knew what was supposed to be required in order to do an audit and supply the auditor with the schedules that he needed?
Well, I'm not gonna speak to we needed help. We needed assistance, and we reached out to Joe's firm where he could help, and he provided assistance.
Okay. So because we did not have someone experienced who knew exactly what they were doing, it cost us 12 grand.
Well, it's not just knowing how to do it, it's the historical knowledge of being able to pull things together.
Is this like, is this an example of the town failing to have systems in place?
And how to use
And how,
documentation.
and document when someone who's been here for 25 years or whatever suddenly leaves and there's like this vacuum that this person had so much knowledge and there aren't backup systems in place for the new person to come in and say, oh, this is what we need to do. Is that kind of part of the
That's a
problem?
good part of it, yes.
I mean, that's a bad thing.
And we just, ideally you have, processes are documented. And in this case, we have, work papers, but the process pulling the information together is not there.
I mean, I see
It
it.
wasn't there, sorry.
Go ahead.
It wasn't there last year during this transition period. Is it in place now?
That is what we're trying to put in place.
I was just gonna say, I see it where I work. We're really worried about it where we work there. You have attorneys who have great knowledge and kind of keep our own files, And people are fearful that when, I think it's prevalent in municipalities and maybe in even the business world where someone with great experience suddenly leaves and there's a vacuum and you got to avoid that. And we're not making excuses for anybody, but it sounds like we had Caitlin who was here for a long time, knew exactly what to do, knew where to look, probably had things on her computer system that assisted her every year. And then when she leaves.
And fortunately, I had Joe's firm who'd been around a while.
So, hey, Joe, can I do a thought and again, I don't want this to be an excuse, but have you seen things like this happening in other municipalities? When you're doing audits, that there's new staff and there's issues getting you the information so you can do something like this in a timely manner?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting more and more prevalent. A lot of the people either a lot of it's retirement based, but there's not a lot of people that are stepping up to do these jobs. I mean, there's vacancies across the state, both town side and Board of Ed side.
That's why if you major in accounting, you can probably get a job and make a lot of money. Rather quickly.
I mean, government's a specialized area, so it's just not that simple. So there's even a greater shortage, and I have the same shortage as far as people that have experience doing government audits. So it's the government sector, which has a shortage on your side, has a shortage on my side. So I don't know what the long-term answer is, but it's other than, kind of what you're talking about is put a lot of structure around how things are done, because the expectation is it's going to be hard to find somebody who could hit the ground running. And then probably the other expectation is, people just don't stay in the same job as long as they used to. So those two factors.
And maybe, and we're gonna throw this out there, maybe this is something for the audit committee when we meet. Is that something you could help us with? A structure to avoid things like this happening?
Yeah, just a lot of it is just how things are documented. A lot, when people are preparing stuff for us, if they know how to do it, there isn't like, we're very detailed. What's the source? Who do we get it from? What's the source document? Is it this and that type of thing? So just having a more thorough thing to get this data that HR does this, or we need to go see engineering because they have this information and to help us retainage or whatever it is. It's just having that documented. And I'd say none of my clients are that thorough in documenting.
It is something that a COO would
Be on top of?
Well, it sounds like we should have paid Caitlin more money. At her stay. We should have paid her more money. It already cost us $12,000 this year. Is there gonna be more of this now that Tony's gone? More of a vacuum for next year? Because now Tony got up to speed at some point. There's gonna be now another vacuum that we have.
Well,
Is he coming?
Yeah, and that, I wholeheartedly agree that that is a risk that needs to be, we have half a year to make sure all the processes are documented, right? If we need Mr. Santafanti's assistance with that, we should leverage that, take advantage of that, but we should absolutely take every step necessary to document processes and avoid that problem come next year.
And Tom, it sounds like you're trying to do that,
We're
right?
trying to do that. We are interviewing. We have interviewed. And we have additional interviews, candidates coming in.
Are you getting decent candidates?
We've interviewed. I don't want to.
All right, that's fine.
I don't want to.
No, I don't want you to get into detail. It's just a generic question.
Thumbs down.
Well, obviously, we should try to hire somebody. Somebody good, somebody who's been through this process before.
Any other questions for Santafanti on the presentation? Mr. Walsh.
So. Joe, I got some questions from your presentation. I'm gonna have more at our audit committee when we meet with you, but, first of all, can you give me a little bit more flavor on this Gatsby statement? 101. First, where am I gonna see that number in this? What I used to call a capper, which I know the name's changed, the eight ACFA. So can you tell me where I'm gonna see that and see those numbers go up dramatically?
Well, the first place is, on page 100, which shows you the prior period adjustment. So as compared to last year, beginning to ending, the adjustment was $34.6 million. And then that's just the adjustment. And then on page
It went up by $34 million?
34.6.
Okay.
Again, a lot of this is heavy on teachers because this whole expected use. So again, when you're looking at this, it's not just town, it's everybody.
Okay.
And the expected use,
So this is, these are absences that can be paid for. So we're now, the Gatsby's requiring them to be accounted for. You can track them, or what is it?
so again, this is theoretical accounting. I think it's a waste of time and effort, but it's expected. So if you have 180 days of vacation or sick time, this really sticks the driver because vacation vests. So before it would be, will I get paid at retirement? That was the way the liability was judged. So if you didn't vest, you didn't get paid at retirement, you didn't book anything. Now we have to calculate expected use. So out of the 180 days sick time, if we expect to use 100, we're going to book a liability for the 100. Even though it's in your budget every year,
Okay.
you're
Who
operating.
determines what that number is gonna be? Like whether if you got 180 days, these teachers, who makes the determination that you're gonna book 100 days?
Well, we look at historic use by
Okay.
person.
Okay.
And I will tell you, as people get older, the number goes up. So
Okay. And then on the town side, so I understand why the driver would be the education. But on the town side, these are like comp days and all sorts of things like that.
it's really sick time that's driving. So
Okay.
I think for police or fire, you have comp time because you have a significant policy. Most towns don't allow
Yes.
that type of thing. But I think, and I don't remember which one it was, but you had a significant liability for one or the other.
Okay. But Tom, we book comp time for people?
We don't look at it as, well, it's tracked in munis. Okay,
People can like, if people work or come to meetings that they're not supposed to be at,
it's tracked, it's tracked.
so they can use that, right? And
Use that.
people have traditionally been getting paid when they leave.
Yeah, and if
Linda
they
Gardner built up a.
Yeah,
ton
so
of
if they have-
a big check when she
have,
left.
comp time that hasn't been used, if they leave, they get compensated, they get paid for it.
Okay. And that's tracked in our side of the numbers though. You keep it on track in munis.
And in Paycom.
Okay. Have those numbers been going up or relatively staying the same?
Relative to last year, I don't know offhand.
Okay. Joe, do you have any sense from looking at the numbers, whether they've been going up or not?
No, because last year they went up 34.6 million because it's a new calculation. So I don't have any.
You don't know what makes up the numbers.
Well, I do, but I'm just saying there's no perspective. I got nothing to compare it to. That was year one.
It's the first
First
year.
time it's been accounted for.
Okay. But compensated absences, or there used to be a number in here that I used to look at, and because I just saw some of the numbers I was concerned about, I'd ask Caitlin about it, and where comp time was actually in our numbers, in our cap. Well, it was the capper then, now the yapper, so it was in here. Where was that?
Well, on page 61 is compensated absences. I mean,
Okay,
that's,
yeah. Okay.
and that's
So comp-
41.4 million.
And that's what people can walk away with?
No.
Okay.
So that's why I said it's not a valuable number because you're gonna pay that out, or people are gonna use sick time. There's no cash outflow. So it's a theoretical liability. It's not, it doesn't affect your budgeting. All it is on page 61,
That's not true.
the top
That's a-
line. So it's one
I
of those-
disagree with that statement. It's not purely theoretical. I mean, retired teachers have the opportunity to get paid out a portion of their sick pay. That's why they're required now to announce that they're retiring before October so that they can be guaranteed that payout. So it's not just a theoretical if we were to ever pay them out. There are individuals, and we should probably ask the Board of Ed, what was last year's payout for the retirees for this, so you can have a better sense of what reality is versus this theoretical all-in belling number.
Right, but Joe, if I heard you correctly at the beginning, you do base this calculation or estimate based on historical data, right?
For the expected use part, it is, and then there's some estimate as far as will they, won't they vest? Because there is two components to this liability, as he's describing. There's the theoretical part, expected use, and then there's the vesting, the actual that you will pay that people have vested or they're expected to vest and will get paid. So there's two components. I don't have the data in front of me, but when the calculation's being done, it's expected use, which is theoretical. It's in your budget every year. Once a person takes a sick day, there's no incremental cost to the town. And then there is the payment at termination or separation for the people that did vest. So there's two pieces to this, and I don't know what the split is, but when we do the calculation, it's both.
Okay. But the vested number used to be in the AFR, correct?
That's all that was in there previously was the vested number, or again, there's some estimate of who would vest. If you vest at 15 years and you've been here 14, then we're going to assume you're going to stay one more year and vest.
Okay.
You know, so there's a calculator. So again, that's why I said it's now like kind of a new estimate, because it's a big number now. Because of the beginning balance was 39. I don't have it in front of me, but if the prior period adjustment was 34.6, that means last year was a $3 million liability or $5 million liability. That's now a $41 million liability.
Okay. Is there any place in this book that shows the vested amount, or is it just all a blended number?
It's just blended. There's no, I would have to look at work papers to figure that out.
Tom, do you have those numbers in Munis? Put the vested number in, Munis, correct?
I would have to check if that's in Munis. It should be. It would be in Paycom.
Yeah, I presume.
It's in
Track
Paycom,
of it, right?
It's in Paycom, yes.
It wasn't always kept track of like really well, and that's what our board in the past has had problems, but you know, people would keep track of their own. So I'm hoping, can you find that
No,
out?
that's in Paycom, yeah.
So it is in Paycom. Okay. Could you
Well-
get us what, out of the town side, tell us what the total number is, the blended number, and what is vested? Because that's real.
Yeah, you're not going to have the estimate of who will vest. So it's not going to be in any system
The rest
because
is-
there's estimates. So if you just look clearly, if it's 15 years and you just take those people, they're going to get paid. There's more people that are estimated that will vest. So I'm just saying it's not a 1-for-1. You're not going to see the number in Paycom.
What's
Straight.
what's vested, what's earned, what's accrued.
So he can give you that number, but that's not our number in the audit has more to it than that.
Okay. All right. I'd still like to see both numbers. You can get me that number?
I can get you the vested, yeah.
So, so Joe, on page 9 of your presentation, the OPEB the OPEB fund ratio, which surprised me to a good number. Because I had no idea that on the town side, that our funded ratio had actually gone up to 83.25. I thought we had our person who handles that come into us, and those numbers were never presented, that we were at an 83.25. So we could get to a point of being 100% vested. Is this change actuarially gonna change how much we can lower our amount for OPEB? Since we're already at 83.25, which has gotta be actuarially. Now we're way ahead of the curve. We're way ahead. Because she does it over us. We're supposed to be invested. Tom, I don't know if you know the number. I can't remember it from her presentation. But I thought in like 16 years, we were supposed to hit 100%. Now we're at 83.25. I mean, I understand investments go down, just like they go up. However, at 83.25 funded with 16 years to go, it has to play some role in lowering what our contribution for the town has to be, for the town. Can you ask her that question for us? Because I thought our presentation was, yeah, it's gonna show some reduction next year. But never did she mention that we were 83.25 funded in her presentation. And I guess the other question I have, since I thought these numbers were put together at the same time, was why the OPEB for the police is so much lower. I thought we created both at the same time, because I was on the Board of Selectmen when we created this. It had to be a vote by the Board of Selectmen when we first came up with, oh, there's this new fund we should start putting money away for. And if we do, and we set up the fund, then we can like lower the, interest rate, or there was some reason to do it, because in the calculation, we could use a lower compounding rate.
So I think, Jim, on the town side, the pension plan is closed out, but on the police fire side, that is an open plan.
No, I'm not talking about, OPEB is just the benefits. So that's what I'm talking about, OPEB. I'm not talking about the pension. The pension I know is a little separate. I'm not seeing the same thing. It's just, I was pleasantly surprised by Mr. Senafani's presentation that we had gone from 68.35 to 83.25% funded.
So the main reason is the liability for police and fire is like $100 million. It's much higher than what the liability is for the employee plan. So that's what's driving it.
And what's the reason for that liability increase? Is it because their benefits are better, or it's just the actuarial cost of their higher? What's the liability?
Yeah, I mean, the actuary's probably better to tell you, but they can retire a lot earlier, so they're going to collect the benefit a lot longer. So the liability,
Yeah, that makes sense.
higher.
Yep, okay. All right. Yeah, it'd be nice to figure that out, and not have to wait till next budget season in March to hear the answer to it. Maybe if she could even get on the call.
Yeah, it'll certainly help, but just remember they use 5-year smoothing. So all these great gains that you're getting, or you're not getting the full impact on your contribution.
Yeah, he had mentioned that, and I think she said that it would go down a little bit next year, but it had to do with the 5-year smoothing. But never did she mention that our funded ratio was 80.25%. As I said, I'm pleasantly surprised by that. And did we get the single audit from the federal and state? Normally we get, like, I think Joe was correct, very thin packet. Are we getting that?
I can get,
Copy of that?
I'll get that.
Okay, great. Joe, in doing the audit, this is a general question. What were some of your biggest surprises while you were doing it? Things that you weren't expecting to see?
That it wasn't.
Good and bad. Why don't we start with the good?
Yeah, I don't know that anything jumps to mind, which, again, remembering I'm not doing all the specific work, so, but I don't remember any surprises other than something like when I see those kind of games like you are, but, jump as far as the process, it was just a different process. I mean, the position was open and then you got someone to fill it, but so it was just a different process, and that's more on the negative side of why I was a little bit delayed. But I don't know that I have any stuff that jumps out that was.
So the process was just different because Caitlin knew exactly what she was doing. She would give you all the schedules that you were expecting to see. And obviously quicker, because, whatever. She's just doing it at a cycle. Work here.
And right, the historical knowledge makes a big difference as far as how fast things move.
Okay. Let me ask you this, in surprises, you randomly choose certain departments or budgets, or, maybe you'll call them something else. You randomly choose ones to dive down into, correct? Like,
As far as our transaction testing, it's not, so I may test a different department because whatever, I'm auditing the CDBG grant or I'm auditing a highway planning grant, and so I need to deal with engineering. So it's kind of more driven by what I have to test. But yeah, we do interact with different departments and how they do records based upon, again, what I'm required to test. So again,
based on you doing that, and obviously that we don't have, as far as I know, man, unless someone tells me that we hired an internal auditor, we don't have an internal auditor. Did you find anything during those, testings that you had to do that would suggest that we should do an internal audit of any certain areas that you tested?
there's nothing that jumps to mind. I mean, that would be something I'd have to more look at because, again, I'm not looking at every war paper and every type of thing. So we don't have any recommendations other than what the few that were there. So, payroll and Paycom, how that's working, since I have a recommendation and it's new. A best practice is somebody should make sure it's working, make sure all the rights are correct and that type of thing. But nothing else jumps out. I mean, there were some entries that related to adjustments that were not posted correctly, and they were found later. And I think those have been resolved. So there's things like that, but it's, I think, just formalizing the close process will help address a lot of this. But that's a year end thing. Nothing came out other than the Paycom. And again, anywhere there's turnover, it's worth when someone gets settled to have somebody relook at how the controls are established with the new people.
Hey, Jim, can I follow?
Yeah, sure.
Joe, if I'm understanding on the Paycom, you said it's obviously relatively new. I think what you're saying is that should be looked at or audited at some point to make sure we're complying with, to make sure that what we're using Paycom for the purposes that we're supposed to be using it and everything's inputted correctly. When should that be looked at? Like a year from now, 2 years from now? At what point should we audit that? Right away, or?
Well, again, the rights, the recommendation should be immediate just because that's a huge risk. But some of the other things, it just kind of depends on, does finance or whoever feel like the system is running the way they expect it to be running, from that perspective, and then it's kind of drilling down. So we feel like all the procedures are in place, everything is getting done the way we want it to done. We kind of worked out all the kinks, and now let's go a little bit deeper and look at the process underneath to make sure it's working. The controls are in place, because the process can work very well, but the controls could be bad. So and that's what the internal audit would look at, is looking at the controls. If we're supposed to do A, B, and C, are we doing A, B, and C, or is the payroll is getting done, but we're not doing all the steps, or not documenting all the things we need to document, that type of thing. I mean, we certainly do a little payroll trend testing based upon the grants we tested, all that, but that's, that's a small population versus the internal audit would be a lot broader, and a lot more attributes would be tested by that type of process than a financial audit process.
Under your recommendations for the payroll access controls and the super user rights, maybe you can give me a little bit more flavor for that, because I guess my questioning is, are you saying that too many junior people have too many rights to be able to do certain things that they shouldn't have from a control standpoint?
Yes, or just from a segregation standpoint. So if you go back to that payroll report I did, whatever it was, right before that it was put in, it was Paycom was put in, is that the payroll clerk should not, the person who processes payroll should not be able to change employee rates. They should be locked out in the system electronically. Can't do it. Not just that they won't do it, they can't do it. And HR is the only one who changes rates. So whenever a new system is set up, whether it be payroll or anything else, everyone starts out with the rights to everything until they figure out how to make the system work. And then what should happen is then all those rights are pulled back, just that fits their job responsibility or what they need to do their job. But the biggest one is always access to change pay rates. And that was one of them, that as part of our testing that came out of the process, that the person processing payroll still had those rights.
All right. But Joe, you weren't at our board table. We had our HR director saying that HR should have no role in payroll. That's where every place she worked. Should never have any role in payroll whatsoever, let alone changing rates, whatever. So you don't agree with that statement. Payroll, HR has a role in this process?
Yes, and that's what my report says. So I did hear that directly as part of my process.
That was the last.
Yeah, we haven't heard that from the current HR director.
Okay, so, and I saw this at a company I worked for, but the solution to it was we had to hire 2 or 3 more people, to have the proper controls, because, people were doing things and they were just able to access the information and do their job, but now they are locked out. So they can't, and then they got to get information from other people. So in a combination of your audit and your role and what we hired you to do with the payroll thing, do you think we're going to need more people in the process, in our payroll process, to solve the super user rights issue? So to keep people properly locked out and have a segregation of this stuff, are we going to need more personnel to properly do that? Because my CEO said at the end of the process was, we didn't seem to have a problem, and now we have a bunch of.
Yeah, you're a big enough community that, without doing a specific evaluation, it's not like you have one person in payroll, one person in personnel, and they can't do it all. So conceptually, I would say you probably have enough people, but I don't know what everyone's doing every day and their
Sure.
roles, but I would think you would have enough people, but
All right, well, that's good to hear. I'll quote you on that one.
But I hedged without evaluating each role,
All right.
but it was working before, so it should still work now. It's just a different software.
Okay, so we're gonna be getting new people in a controller's position and a internal auditor. Correct this process so you have a smoother process for next year. When we hire someone or Tom hires another controller, does it make sense for you and Tom and this person to sit down early in the process and to come up with like, give them what your expectations are and explain what they're gonna need in advance? So we don't run into this problem and are getting this after in May, almost, first week of May.
Yeah, I mean, certainly depending on the person, like here's what, was committed to as part of the audit process that the town will provide, and how we're going to get there. Here's the stuff. And again, I sent a lot of the schedules and a lot of the things that I received last year. So some of it could be duplicated. So going over that with somebody, because I think Tom was CC'd on everything, but I don't know where it's all organized, but to kind of redo that with somebody, here's the expectation. But unless they've done it before for a while, there's still going to be a learning curve. So a corporate controller without government experience is going to still take a lot longer to get through some things, because government is just different. Certain things it's not. A bank rec is a bank rec.
Mhm.
AP is AP, but there are things specifically that need to get pulled in, and you are a big operation. So I mean, the person you had there previous, she was there a long time. So every year she built on kind of what knowledge base and that type of thing. So there's a lot of variables, but definitely having a meeting about here's what needs to get done and assigning it out and walking through some of the complicated things would hopefully ramp up the learning process and clarify expectations.
And Joe, just to add to that, I don't think it's just a list of the deliverables. I also think it's a timeline as well, so that it's kind of like, we know that in October, you should have certain information, or November, or whatever the dates are, but you should have not just a list of deliverables, but dates associated with that, and when we would expect to get a draft back from you, and there's got to be a little bit of back and forth, and laying out that critical path would be really helpful.
Yep. I mean, the driver for my whole process is getting trial balances. So we can certainly timeline some of the other things that take a little longer, like capital assets or even compensated absences, or these things, because they're not in the general ledger, but trial balances drive my process. And so until I get trial balances, build the financials, know what I'm going to audit, then that's the delay. So if I don't get final trial balances till November, well, then it needs to be October to hit the deadline. So
And this gets back to the point that we were discussing earlier about just having the process documented, right? And so I think to the extent that we can take time between now and October to make sure the process is outlined, documented, mapped out, timeline, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. And
Well,
Jim, and if you don't mind, I know this doesn't have to do right now with the AFRA, but we don't get Mr. Senafani before us very often. I just want to ask one question, if you give me the way.
sure.
And that goes to getting a new internal auditor. Joe, your firm has done audits and whatever. I presume that in doing audits and helping towns do audits, work that you do, you have seen common problems sometimes from community to community. Would you think it would be helpful if you met with Tom and our internal auditor and maybe gave some ideas of things that have not been recently audited that maybe could be on a wish list or things to consider, and then could be talked to with our audit committee, maybe even our audit committee be present for that, Only because the person's gonna be new. And I know that your institutional knowledge of our town and your institutional knowledge, because there's not a lot of firms that do the work that you do anymore with municipalities. So, we put a lot of faith in your company and it's been a great relationship. But do you think that would be helpful? I guess is the question.
Sure. Again, if they don't have municipal experience, the risks are different. So a lot of it just depends on what's their baseline. But yeah, I certainly, after 40 years of doing this, can tell you where the risks are, where I've seen problems, where there might be a problem based specifically in Fairfield. So yeah, I certainly could give them some direction
Okay.
in where to start.
And I think on our audit committee, I've not been on the audit committee before. I think I might find it helpful for maybe that meeting to happen. I don't care whether you guys meet privately in town hall, privately for a while, but maybe have a meeting in town hall with our audit committee for one of our meetings to just have a broad conversation.
Wrote it down.
Okay, that'd be great.
I'm not even the chair of the audit committee.
Thank you, Joe, for the.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
Um,
All right. Are we all set, with Mr. Santafonte? All right, great. Well, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it. And
Sure.
I'll leave it on it in case there are any follow-ups.
Yep.
Right? All right.
Okay, great.
Very
Thanks,
much.
Joe. I'll be in
All right,
touch.
sure. Yep.
Joe.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Okay, that takes us to item number 7 on the agenda. We've got our town librarian. And Scott, I apologize. I'm never gonna get your name.
It's in the back.
There's a back. Okay, all right. Shouldn't be that hard, but I screw it up every time. What's before us here, for those at home or following online, the backup is available online starting on page 57. I wanted to paraphrase, but it's probably easier for me to just read this. Whereas the Board of Library Trustees wishes to donate the sum of $25,000 to the town of Fairfield for work on the main library's patio. And whereas the town desires to accept this donation and use the funds for the purposes designated by the Board of Library Trustees. I'll skip the rest of the reading for there, but the short end of it is the Board of Trustees is looking to give the town $25,000. They can't spend it directly, but it's gonna be used for a new patio, right? Is that it?
So the work's already been done,
Oh, okay.
and the amount is 22,500.
Okay.
What happened was this board in November of 2024 approved some ARPA money to be moved in our direction to redo our patio. As we started doing that work, we realized we probably needed to do a little more work and some additional things when it came to the seating. So we went to the trustees and we asked the trustees if they would fund that additional work, and they said yes, up to $25,000. So we spent all of the ARPA money, and then what was left over was 22,500. And that's what the trustees would like to donate to the town.
Okay.
Have to change this then.
So, yeah, this does require RTM approval, but as it's written, is the sum of 25,000. You're saying it really is 22,500? Okay, so we would just make an amendment, here to change the amount. Yeah. Philip?
Has the 22,500 work been done? It's been done. We paid for that. It was paid out of one of our budget lines. Your budget. And that was paid out of, is it materials? No, fees and professional services.
Oh, yeah, right. In the backup on page 57, the second to last paragraph talks about it.
Well, we're gonna be reimbursing your line, the fees of professional services line. I think that's our whole.
Ms. Walsh?
What was the fees and professional service line supposed to pay? Now you've got this gaping hole.
So there-
The board of, library board of trustees, now come forward with this money.
That line is typically used for library-related software like our ILS and some other software, like Libby, that we use for ebooks.
So you were willing to put that at risk, or did you already know that they were giving you the 22,500?
We knew that they were gonna fund the rest of the project, so
Okay,
we weren't
that's kind of a
gambling.
risk.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't make a bet that big.
Okay, because you wouldn't have the software programs that you need.
Can I just say something? And I don't mean to be nitpicky or and this is a general question, maybe. And I say this with all due respect, who says that you could take 22,500 piece of professional services to pay for this patio work? I mean, I don't. Who said you could do that? That just, and I'm not being critical, it doesn't sound like it. I have a little issue with that. I don't know if fellow board members do it. I don't know, Tom, you want to weigh in on that or?
I don't know, we may have discussed it, I don't recall.
So we discovered it. This was not a PO that was signed off for by us that I know of. We need to look to see if that was signed off internally. I think it was just, where are we gonna get the money to pay this bill? Let's pull it out of this. It would have been better, I think we assumed it was gonna be pulled out of facilities. This is kind of, I don't want to say a new approach, but the way in which we're having trustees pay for things, I think is more in line with what we need to do, which follows the purchasing policy. And the reimbursement of funds to the town. Yes, ideally what could have happened was you could have got the trustees to agree to pay for this before the work was done, and that would have been. Wait, so the work wasn't done. What happened was we had some work done. Right. And then we looked at it and said, still haven't installed the seating. What do we need to do to install the seating? Need more work. We need more work. Then I went to the trustees, got the trustees to vote on the money before the additional work was done. Okay. So I think there was a drop in communication of how, really a drop in process of how we were to handle. Many years ago, what would have happened is the trustees would have cut a check and we would have handed it to the people who did the work. I'm not comfortable with that. I've been honest with the trustees when I started 4 years ago, that we need to follow the purchasing policy of the town. So on our side of things, we thought we had everything lined up, and I think it was more of a drop in kind of communication of how this was going to be handled. Because there was a lot of changes at the town, in the town at the time.
Let me jump in and just dig a little deeper on that point. This actually, Mr. Myers, goes back to our purchasing policy subcommittee discussion. It seems to me like you did the right thing in terms of going to the trustees, making sure you had the money before the work got done, or at least they voted on it, right? So you knew it wasn't a gamble. But if the town was paying for it, it sounds like this gets back to how is it coded so that it would hit the right account? And then, Ben, we had that email exchange about your role in the purchasing process, making sure that the account that's being used for the expense is accurate. Do you have any insight that you can share with this board as to how 22,500 would have gone to fees and professional services?
I was just looking into the process and how this went through. A purchase order was created. Don't know how to go look historically to see what the workflow was for the approval process.
Wouldn't the budget director be the one in the process to make sure that the accounts that are on the purchase order are accurate and that there's budget dollars in that account? And maybe there were, that's the whole point, right? Like you want it replenished. I guess that's the concern that we had in our purchasing committee meeting discussion, to make sure we understood what's the process, who along the line the workflow process, make sure that the account is
But, I mean, based on how he described how it worked, and tell me if I'm wrong, it would have sounded like when you sent that initial purchase order in, you really weren't contemplating these tables and chairs. It wasn't until you started the process and you did the concrete work, whatever. And then you said, we really want to do these tables and chairs, so that's more than what so I don't even know until you look at this PO as to whether or not, just say it was 50 in total, was it 25 to begin with, and then we never saw that second 22.5 because it was just sort of this like weird deal here, you know? So that's what I would want to know, but this was the point of that, really, that email exchange, is how important that role, what your role is in terms of keeping what we're doing on these budgets relevant, you know, and not making us maybe feel like they're just numbers.
Yeah.
But the underlying lines don't really have any meaning unless we're putting to the accurate accounts.
So I guess that would be a follow-up item that I've added to the list for tonight. I don't think it needs to come back to this full board, but I think it does need to go to the purchasing committee. Just a better understanding of this as this particular purchase order as an example. And we'll do our own mini internal audit here. Okay, so let's bring it back to this.
I'm gonna ask, so the finance department, I know, or Tom, so as long as the department is not going above their expenditure for the entire department, they can spend money wherever they want to, regardless of what the budget says, correct? So in regards to the library, just keep it where it is. As long as you're not gonna have a problem or entering anything into your system. And this could be assigned to fees and professional services. It could be assigned to any line in the budget, accounting wise, as long as the entire department hasn't gone over. But once it goes in and it goes over the expenditures for that approved budget, that's when your system says, no, can't happen because there's not enough money in that department.
Generally, as long as you're within the budget for your department, the department head has discretion in terms of how they spend.
They can move items
Yeah.
between.
I mean, but that's,
I mean, they don't have to follow the budget. They can just do whatever they want. They can let people.
But I do think we were-
They can let people go. If the conservation director, I'm not saying he would ever do this, it's a hypothetical. He wanted his boat. He could fire somebody in his department. Say, "Oh, I want the boat."
yeah, but he may have done that, but I think that there would have been a discussion with him if he had done that.
But
I
it
mean,
does,
but that's,
but it does beg the question, going back to the boat, and bear with us for 1 second, Scott. Like, it was $2,300. Like, did he not have $2,300 on some line item where?
Yeah, I mean,
like,
you know, if it was 34,000 and he fired somebody, I think there would be a discussion about that.
Yeah.
But if he, within his budget, could have made up in fact, a part of the funding is gonna come out of his operating budget. But if he had 5,000 to buy the boat, he would have discussed it with us, I believe, and we would have said, okay.
Each department's kind of like the Board of Ed.
Any board of ed.
Well, you know, I mean,
Like, here's our budget. We talk about it for God knows too long. And we all think that that's the way the money's gonna be spent.
I think if,
Again, they could say, nah, screw, we're gonna have less teachers, more books.
but I think if you have, you know, if you say you're gonna fire somebody to buy something, then I think there's a discussion to be had about that.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, what's the impact on that the next year?
Or if it goes wacky, then there's gonna be discussion about.
Yeah.
From the.
See, the
select.
following
But
year.
I guess the question is that your accounting system doesn't really care. They could spend the money. They could, on whatever they want, as long as they're not over for the year.
But I don't know if that's unique to this system. I mean, I worked in a lot of places and that's not unique. I mean, generally, department head or a operating head has discretion in terms of how they spend within that budget.
I'm just asking. You know, so that's how you're able to do it. Now, I appreciate, you know, and I commend you that you had, before you did it,
No.
you knew and you'd spoken, and that was the proper thing to do, obviously, so. I don't know whether to give you an award or just to say you've just followed your procedures properly. You know, whatever.
The
but-
agenda.
Yeah. No. I think it's, you know, I'm glad you did all that stuff because it would.
I want to make a general comment, you know, I mean, I've been here a year and a half and I would say I have found general department have been very transparent and open in terms of how they do things.
Yeah.
If there's a question, I mean, I could truly say they tend to raise the issue and say, hey, we want to do this. I haven't had a situation where somebody's gone and done something, we say, hey, we got a problem. You know, I hope that continues.
I have seen over the years, I've been here too long, where I thought something was gonna get done in a department that we'd asked about in the budget, and the next year we're talking about it again. And you ask about it, like, wait a minute, I thought you told me that you were gonna use this or whatever. Yeah, we decided not to do that this year, so we're back. What do you mean you decided not to? Like, I thought that was gonna be spent. Well, we decided to do something else. And I guess that's just their authority that they can do that. The department. Because we're really just giving departments at the end of the day a dollar amount.
Yeah. Mini BOEs.
And that's what I was told, that there was no, and that's how I knew that there was no controls. That we knew that he had to buy certain fees and professional service stuff. But he could throw this out there, knowing he's gonna get the money and it's gonna go in to cover it, but yeah. There was no control to stop it saying, oh, that has to be applied to this specific line item. And he's over on that line item or whatever, because it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
My original.
I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's just the way it is. And as you said, you've worked other places and department head controls their budget.
Yeah. So before we take action on this, we do need to have a vote to amend the dollar amount from 25,000 to 22,500. Okay, and second by Mr. Elwanger. Thank you, John. Thank you, Bob. So with that amendment, all in favor of the amendment? Unanimous. So with the amendment. So it'll be whereas the Board of Library Trustees wishes to donate the sum of 22,500 to the town of Fairfield for the work on the main library's patio. And whereas the town desires to accept this donation from funds for the purposes designated by the Board of Library Trustees. So, and all the rest of the reading. Can I get a motion to accept?
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. Walsh and Mr. Myers with the second. All in favor? All right, great. Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for your patience. Okay. So and that does require our team approval, so we'll need to make sure that their agenda is just about the right amount. All right, so with that, perfect timing. Item number 8 on the agenda will take us into executive session. And then when we come out of executive session, we'll have just a couple of items left. We've got old business, picking up some open items and some minutes to vote on. So most of our fun stuff is behind us. But we'll need to have a motion to go into executive session, then we'll get turned off. And just a reminder that while I believe some materials were emailed earlier today to the board for this executive discussion, no note taking during executive session. So.
Are we staying in this room?
Yes, we'll stay right here. But we'll have to make sure that FairTV is turned off.
Can I just ask a question before we go in? Because we need to know that we are properly going into an executive session.
Yes.
I saw the reason listed as that there, at least in the agenda, that it's to discuss an attorney-client privilege memorandum. When I go onto the FOI site, look up the 5 reasons that we can go into executive session. One of them is strategies and negotiations about pending claims or pending litigation involving the agency or a member. And one of them is to discuss any matter that may result in disclosing a public record that is exempt from disclosure. Which one of those things is it? Because The other three categories, it doesn't meet. So I just want to make sure, because sometimes we get calls from the press who hate this crap.
So,
So I want to know if they ask me which one it was. So I'm not trying to put you on the
no, it's
spot.
it's fine. So the section you want to look at is general statutes is 1-200,
Okay.
which I'm just gonna pull it up. Lost my laptop. Which is the definition section. Definition of executive session is in 6. It includes discussion of a matter which, under E, discussion of any matter which would result in the disclosure of public records or information contained therein described in subsection B of 210, 1-210. So you go to 1-210, and then under, it's not the sections that you cited, but under 1-210, these are public records that are exempt from disclosure under FOIA. So if you go to, hold on, just give me a second. It's the one that deals with common law privileges, of which attorney-client privilege is one.
Okay.
Uh,
So kind of, is that really like any manner that would result in the disclosing of a public record that is exempt
That's
from
privilege.
disclosure?
So, yes, so I've provided, yes, and there are
Okay, okay,
FOIC
I just wanted to
decisions, there are FOIC decisions on this exact issue.
Okay. No, I just wanted, that's.
I provided the board with a
Yeah.
memo that is
Okay.
privileged, and we're gonna go
That's
to
fine.
executive session to
That's,
discuss
I
it.
just wanted to know. Thank you.
All right, so can I get a motion to go into?
Bob got the.
I didn't get the email.
I don't know if I got one. I sent it yesterday. I think I BCC'd everybody from the emails.
It's from you, Phil?
I'm happy to forward it to him, but I don't want to.
But we can discuss this in executive session, right? So can we get into executive session? So can I get,
No,
so can I get a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Wall, seconded by Mr. Rock. Okay.
so the motion you need to make is a motion to go into executive session. And invite Ross Murray.
CFO Tom Harris, ex officio, Assessor Ross Murray, Director of Financial Planning and Analysis Ben Bovero. Is that everybody? Yeah, to discuss attorney-client privilege memorandum. Okay, so can I get a motion for that? So moved, Mr. Rock, and seconded by Amy Richard. Okay, so FairTV, we are now in executive session. Oh, sorry, all in favor? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So FairTV, we're now in executive session. Can we pause or certainly stop the recording and make sure that the
Recording stopped.
It's there, but the cruise.
Yeah, Prue needs
Okay.
So they gotta let Brew on and everybody?
I think I see Prue there.
Recording in progress.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, so it is 9:45 PM and we have just come out of executive session. No votes were taken in our executive session. Okay, so then agenda item number 9, old business. If everyone follows as a practice, we started keeping track of open items and we were doing those in our old business portion of our meetings. I suspended that during our budget hearings, so that we could focus on the budget hearings, but now that we're through that, and back to our regularly scheduled programming, we've got our open items. So the agenda, the open items are listed on page, let's see, bear with me, 59 of the online back. Mr. Harris, would you take us through this?
Sure. The first item relates to a request to get a fee estimate to do an audit of internal audit. I'm sorry, the IT function. And the director reached out to several consultants and we received an informal estimate from one in audit for starting in the range of $35,000 to $40,000. So that's just a verbal response. There's no additional backup because it was an informal quote.
And is that something you expect to actually develop?
We don't have it in the budget this year, but I think it's something we will do at some point.
Okay.
Are there any questions on that?
Being any?
The next item relates to the question about the number of cash receipts that come in. I prepared a memo that summarizes the process we went through with department heads. And basically, sort of the end result of this is that we will, to the extent we can, be in a non-cash collection situation. The statute requires that cash option be available for some functions like tax collection, town clerk, health services. But even in the tax collection office, most of the receipts there are non-cash. I mean, less than 1% of the receipts there are non-cash. The department that has the largest amount of cash receipts is Parks and Rec. And most of that's in the marina area. And the plan is to migrate to a non-cash function. Basically, the fees, most of the fees are paid earlier in the year in February. So in terms of this year, that money has come in. Anthony's putting in place a communications process to inform folks that we're going to go to a non-cash function going forward. So there are some other departments that have very small amounts of cash. Library has, I think, 50 or 60,000. That's an area where, we probably will continue to have some cash receipts because there are several very small transactions. Likewise in the town clerk's office. The police department is going to be effective, I think, on Monday or Tuesday, completely non-cash. They sent out communications to residents informing them of the change a couple of weeks ago. So that's in place. So at the end of the process, we expect to be substantial in a non situation.
Right.
The next item related to the misclassification.
Clarify just when you're.
Sure.
For cash.
Mhm.
You mean like.
Currency.
A check is not cash.
Cash, correct.
Okay.
The next item relates to expenses that were misclassified, capital outlay expenses that were in materials and maintenance. Those were reclassified as of the end of the fiscal year, and copies of the journal entries are in the backup.
Thank you.
And the final item relates to parking. I think during the budget view, there was a discussion about the possibility of the commission changing fee It did not do that. But the increase in the budget was due to two things. One is the department went back and did a review of their year-to-date expenses and revenues from the time they submitted the budget originally. They made an adjustment on that basis. Plus, there were some parking spaces that were being used by students, and they sort of reassigned those to a different area, so.
Okay. So that first page of the open items, those are all the ones that were addressed in this meeting, but there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 others that remain open and to be addressed in subsequent meetings.
One will be addressed on the quarterly because it relates to the reformatting of a report.
Yes, so the first 4 items on the list all are scheduled, anticipated to be completed in a couple of weeks. Are you comfortable with that?
On the town side, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then I can actually, I've had a number of conversations with respect to the Dwight School reimbursement. Yeah, I think we got that news from the state that 75%. But I think the specific question that you asked, Mr. Walsh, was how does there are 2 things. We had this Spigal's report and a whole kind of matrix of math based on square footage and cost and everything else and different reimbursement rates to get us to what the funding amount was supposed to be. You wanted to see that in comparison to where the new building committee sits with the new reimbursement rates. So I worked with Eli to make sure I had the right matrix in all the math that gets to where we were in the Spigal's version. And I've sent that to the chair of the building committee. I've asked them to provide an update to us in 2 weeks on where they stand on the project and to provide the second half of that matrix so that we can see with Collier's estimates and the new reimbursement rates, what does it look like? We'll be able to see those apples to apples. I asked, you had asked if Representative Leeper could attend and kind of walk us through reimbursement rates. She could not make it tonight because the session, they're still up in Hartford. The session doesn't end until tomorrow. She's actually going to be traveling in a couple of weeks. So I don't know that I'll be able to get her to come in a timely fashion. But she did walk me through math on the reimbursement, and there are a couple of things that changed. Not just the numbers, but if you remember, there's a certain square footage and then that's capped at a certain amount that's eligible for reimbursement. That portion of the math stays, so that's still in place. The reimbursable square footage is being reimbursed. It was assumed to be 32.5%. That was doubled, more than doubled, to 75%. So that's a big, I don't want to call it a windfall, but that's a big help for us. But it doesn't apply on the whole project, right? And because of only about 65% of the square footage was eligible for reimbursement. And then if you remember in the previous math, there was an additional 15% adder for the ECC space. My understanding and what Representative Leeper told me was that goes away. And I don't know if she or if you heard differently. I asked for confirmation on that, but they said that the 75% is now all
Inclusive. Of
yeah,
the
it includes
15.
that, so it wouldn't be additive to do the ECC. It still gets us to a much better place. I think the math is.
So it's just different gyrations, but like, we need to see this number in comparison, so we got to really see.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think that, I did do the math, at least how it changes.
I mean, that's kind of a big difference though, not including the ECC, because I remember saying, you know, it's almost ludicrous not to do the ECC based on this reimbursement. And now for them to say, oh, well, you're not getting it on the ECC. It's sort of like, well, maybe I wouldn't have done the ECC there.
Well,
So it's kind of like.
that only applied on the ECC space though.
No,
It applied to the whole,
Yeah.
whole project, but I think that we represent, the 75% takes into account. They added that 15%
Into the 70.
into the 75.
Yeah.
So if there
At the end of the
wasn't,
day,
if
it's the
there
same amount of
wasn't
money,
that,
who
if there
cares?
wasn't that
Right.
early childhood space there, we wouldn't be getting 75% reimbursement on that project. And there was also additional reimbursement for the special education portion of the school that's dedicated just to special ed. And that's also included in that 75%. Those numbers of 15%, that was in statute. I think that prior to this legislation being passed, there was some uncertainty of what the reimbursement rate would be. That's, you know, it could vary. 25%, is it 30%, is
They
it less
certainly
than that?
simplify the math. at
And
this
they
point.
did. I think at this point, having this legislation that basically tells us what the reimbursement will be on eligible costs will make it a lot easier to plan and to have a.
So we had approved a project cost of up to 76.4 million. And the old math would have yielded a net cost to the town of 60.7 or $15.7 million reimbursement. Now it looks more like a $35 million reimbursement. Again, using the gal's numbers, we'll let the building committee come in with Collier's numbers. But if we just use their math, the reimbursement would have increased from 15.7 to 35.4. So the net cost after reimbursement to the town would have been less than 41 million.
Significant.
This is all special legislation. This is not gonna be for every building that, like, the other towns don't get this?
Right.
Just for this specific piece of special legislation?
My understanding.
For this project.
Does that mean they'll expand the scope?
I don't think so. And that's why I think we can ask those questions to the building committee when they come in, because I don't think anyone expects.
That would be my
No,
fear.
yeah.
You get more money, you spend more money.
Yeah, well, that's what we have to make sure.
That's not how it
Yeah,
works.
that's not how they, yeah.
All
Okay,
right, that's great.
so that's that. Where were we? Yeah, and then the other items were, a capital plan stress test. We're gonna do that back in September. So,
Can I just have to, if you could also be able to explain how the bonding is gonna be on that, because I think it was explained that you have to bond for the entire project, even though you're getting the reimbursement, but if the project is 76 million, why would you bond it if it's really only gonna cost 41 million? So I'd like to understand just how that happens and how the money flows and how that reimbursement affects, right? I mean, can you not bond the whole amount because you know you're getting the reimbursement and use your general fund as a, you know, a payback from the, I don't know how that works. That's just me
Takes a while.
thinking outside the lines here.
Years.
But I just don't know how, if you gotta pay for a project before you get the reimbursement, how do you pay for it?
yeah, how do you bond it? Yeah, because, yeah, you shouldn't spread 76 million over 20 years if you're gonna get 35 million back in.
Right.
Two.
Yeah. I mean, maybe there's a short-term funding.
Yeah.
Just to get you to the verge of getting the reimbursement. I don't know.
Yeah.
And whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
They only bond it, they will only give you certain reimbursement, then they hold a percent back till the audit's done, right? That could take years. That was a pretty decent percentage, like 20% or something.
Hold it back. Takes a while.
Yes. Years, like years sometimes.
And then one other old business item, just a reminder, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but one of the committees that we have established was a budget committee, and what we talked about was not forming that or meeting prior to the budget. We were really going to use that committee to do a debrief after the budget. What went right? What went wrong? What can we do differently for next year? What should we do the same? Damn it, I almost made it. Almost.
That clock is, you know.
Yeah. So remind me, who's on the budget committee? I forget.
I think I am.
Yeah. So if you guys can try and put your heads together and find a time to meet and find a chair and kind of before too much time passes, that would be good. While our memories are still fresh. And also on a related note, I did receive, I was contacted by the chair of the Board of Ed. They would like to sit down with your budget subcommittee to just talk about from their perspective, what went right, what went wrong, what do you want to see differently from them as well. So keep that.
He's on setting that up.
Anything else on old business? All right, so that will take us on to item number 10, to hear and consider and act upon draft minutes. There were 10 meetings where we need to approve minutes. Prue was kind enough to suggest that we tackle 5 tonight and 5 at our next meeting, so we don't have them all. Not everybody was present for all the meetings. So on February 17th, Kevin, if I'm not mistaken, I believe you were absent. Certainly suggests that, so we should take that one separately. And then March 5th, 10th, and 12th, we were all here. And then the 16th, I was not here, so we should vote on that separately. So can I get a motion to hear the minutes of, hearing and consider the minutes from February 17th? Amy, with the first, and Jim Myers, with the second. Any comments, changes, or anything going on with that one? I think I actually have. So I had one for a couple of, item number 5 in the minutes, to review the town fiscal year 26 Q2 financial update. Second line, it talks about Mr. Harris estimates a $7 million surplus. I don't think it was 7. It was like, I thought it was closer to 2. I didn't go back and look at the meeting, but do you think it was 1.9? 1.9? Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to check. And then a little further down, pretty much middle of the paragraph, there's a sentence that says the current budget assumes 3.6 million transfer from the internal service fund to reduce medical costs based on updated estimates for workman's comp, heart and hypertension, and incurred but not reported IBNR. I believe you had it, you had made it clear that while we expected this
It's budgeted.
transferred, yeah, it would budgeted but not available. So I think what I would suggest would be to just at the end of that sentence, to just after the word but, to delete not reported IBNR and replace that with would not be available due to additional claims.
Correct.
Is that a fair adjustment? And then the last thing I would suggest, very next sentence, the town will also have car insurance for the fleet. I think we should just, that was specific to the police department. So insert for the police department fleet. Those are the 3 amendments that I would have there. So I move to make those changes. And John, second. Okay, any other changes for this one? No? All right, so can I get take a vote on the amendment of the 3 changes? Yep, unanimous. All right, thank you. And then can I get a vote to approve the amended minutes for February 17th? Mr. Wallace, seconded by Mr. Elwanger, all in favor? And Kevin, you're gonna abstain because you weren't here for that one. So that's 701 on that one. Okay. So the next 3 meetings, March 5th, 10th, and 12th, we were all in attendance. So unless anyone has any objections, we can take them all together. Yeah.
We just did February 17th, right?
Yep.
Why is Rock not listed? He was, and he just voted. I think
You were
that's it.
here. I didn't even see that. We can,
I was just looking at that.
The amendment to put Dave Rock.
amend the amendment? Yeah, okay. You want to make that?
Sure.
Okay. So
I'd
Amy,
like to make a motion to amend the amendment to add David Rock on the February 7th.
present. I'll second that. For the amendment. Okay.
You here?
Am I allowed to vote?
You weren't there.
Don't vote it.
All right, so all in favor, approving the amended version? Good. All right, so we're good there, 7-0. Thank you. Good catch. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the March 5th, 10th and 12th minutes? Mr. Walsh? And second by.
You're missing again.
He's not there, I guess.
He's missing again.
The fifth.
Missing on the 5th.
All right,
The fifth. So we should just do the fifth separately.
so we'll do the 5th. Well, we can make an amendment to.
Amend it and do them.
We're all present, so it's about the voting. So we'll amend the 5th to add.
See, I'm checking spelling and attendance.
Is your name spelled right on these?
Is your name spelled
They
correct?
are, believe me, I checked.
All right. Okay. So. Amy, did you make the motion to add Dave's name to this one?
Yeah, no, I will make.
Yeah. And then Mr.
Okay.
Myers, you seconding?
I will second, yes.
Any other changes before we vote on these? No. All right, so
March 10th,
March 10th, okay?
item 3 on the first page, there's no attachment. CFO Harris went through some of the budget changes, see attachments.
Okay.
Is there to be one to the minutes?
Well, not for the minutes, but I think the discussion was that there was an attachment he was referring to in the
That's probably in the
discussion.
back.
It would be in the backup that was online, yeah, but not an attachment to the minutes.
So see backup. As opposed to see attachment. I mean, see attachment to me means there's something attached to the.
To these minutes. Okay, so change the word attachment to
Backup.
backup.
Or backup or something, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Owanger's motion, I'll second that one. Any other edits before we? Not seeing any. You made it to the, well, that's good. All right. So, can I get wait, did we do the edits? No, we didn't. No, we have to vote to approve all the minutes as amended. Okay, so Dave, you want to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Okay. Dave, second, Amy, great. I'll vote on the, we're all here, all in favor? Unanimous, all right. One, all right, and then lastly, the March 12th, I was, March 16th, I was not in attendance, so I will abstain from this vote.
Why don't we delete the reference to coming out of executive, making a motion to come out of executive session, since we now know that that's the wrong way to.
Well, but if
That's what happened.
but that is what happened in that case, right?
Yeah.
All right. So any other changes to the 16th? Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I wasn't here, so I can't correct it, but Tom, you saw something?
The, on the top of the page,
That's my question.
19.9% should be 13.9%.
Page,
Second
top of
page.
page 2, the 99.9% should be 13.9%.
Correct.
All right. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, there's a new member of our board named James
I
Ross.
saw that he should be.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
Who's that?
All right, so
My
we
alter ego.
should do Brian, okay.
Found that online.
Or said differently, we should have James Ryan be moved to others present, right?
Well, who is he?
But I was here.
He works for DPW. He's the facility.
Facilities.
Facilities.
Oh, but it should say James Walsh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be.
Oh.
Should be James Bond.
It's missing Walsh.
Oh, got it. So it's not James Ryan, it's James Walsh. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna change James Ryan to James Walsh.
Correct.
Okay.
Where was the 19%?
Top of page 2.
It's referring to the cap and the increase in the
I see.
coverage.
All right, so we had two adjustments, the 12th. Any other adjustments?
I had a comment in here that I was here, so there's a specific comment on page 2 for me.
All right. All good?
Yep.
We get a motion to approve the amended minutes. Amy and Mr. Rock. All in favor? Yeah. All right, so that takes us through the minutes. Tom, any applications that you need to discuss?
No, we are beginning the process, so we're engaged with the bond counsel and our financial advisor to begin the bond process. So we're in the process of collecting data. Yeah, that it will be concluded by middle next week, to including the initial draft of the.
Okay.
Any sense of where rates are right now for that? They got up, down versus what was going on?
I think they have, I'm not sure right now. I know, the money market rates are down.
Mhm.
The bond rates. In terms of the things that we have, that were turned over, they were down in the.
In terms of our next meetings, two coming up, we've got, it's less than 2 weeks. We've got our quarterly, and then just 2 weeks after that, or less than 2 weeks after that, we've got our June meeting on June 2nd, so it's early in June. And then after that, we're not scheduled to be back until September. So we may end up having, if needed, we may have a special meeting somewhere, but we're close to our summer break. All right.
We're getting BAA before us at the quarterly.
Yeah, I asked both the chair of the BAA and Ross to attend. I believe the chair of the BAA has said he's got hearings that night, or he won't be here, but I believe Ross will.
I won't be here for the quarter.
Is the board of,
Ross says he doesn't really get along with the board, so how's he gonna know, like?
I think they get along,
So
they work well together.
That's not what Ross says.
I did ask, where they stand in their process, and he did send me an update. Did I forward that to everyone I meant
So
to?
you showed me you read an email that you got.
So I apologize. I've received that from Ross. He kind of gave me a status update on where they are. I had intended to forward it until it just came up. I didn't think about it, but I will forward that so that you have it. And that chart, progress chart, he updates every Monday. So we'll get a new one. I asked to be on the distribution list. I'll flip it to everybody so we know where they stand.
and the RTM's voting on the budget, is it the night,
26th.
the 26th? We meet the week after to set the mill rate.
Yeah, in our June 2nd meeting, we'll set the mill rate.
Tom, did you say what? I can't remember. I think you were asked the question about what the amount of funds that the state's gonna be supposedly giving us. It's almost 900,000, right?
Well, I think it's about 900,000, but I think about 100 of that goes to the Board of Ed. There's 800.
Wait a minute. Goes to directly to the Board of Ed?
It's allocated to education. I think.
Yeah. And it says, and some of our budgets, a large part of our budget's allocated to the Board of
Goes to
Education.
And then there's an additional 818,000. The question was, how are you gonna use it? And I said that it's gonna go into the general fund. We don't know if there are constraints around it, that there don't appear to be any constraints in terms of how we use it.
Okay, so I guess the question, I'm gonna ask that night, or we can start getting ready, or the town can start talking about is, are we going to have a slot within, when we do our calculations, where we can add that money back in and reduce the mill rate?
That is
That is the intent.
Yeah, so we've already voted on the revenues and expenses,
Yes.
the budget. We can't change that, but we can take into consideration this $942,000 in our calculation.
Kind of like, we're gonna get some number from the BAA and add to, like, that's gonna become from an expense.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to cover it, whatever, so. But I just want to be clear, just because of something you said. I'd like a clear answer. The money for the Board of Education, that fund money that we're getting from the state, that gets added into that, right? It doesn't, we're not giving that to the Board of Ed and you could now spend extra money, right?
No,
Okay.
that's correct.
That's what I want to hear. Got me nervous for a second.
And one other question, there were 2 appeals to the RTM. Did those happen or
They did.
Sure did.
Right. This is old business. We should have talked about.
And they had combat.
Okay. So yeah, Norma Free, $10,000 was appealed and the RTM voted to restore that $10,000. The Kennedy Collective appealed the $15,000 amount that we cut. That did not pass the RTM, so that was not restored. So $10,000.
We did talk about our board getting either a committee or something together to have a better process and for how nonprofits in the future, what do we want? What's going to be a recommendation that we make on that?
Yeah, I get it. Kind of opened up a can of worms there.
Yeah, so
We talked about that a bit.
in our quarterly, we'll have not just the building committee for Dwight, but we'll also have 3 or 4 of the nonprofits come in. And we'll just get into that rhythm. It means our quarterlies are gonna be a little long because we're gonna be covering a lot of different stuff. But Mr. Elwanger was kind enough to actually put together a questionnaire for the nonprofits, which I think will be really helpful for kind of giving us a better understanding.
They'll come with that information.
Yeah, so did you guys connect on?
I don't know, but I assume, Tom, you'll send it out to them.
Perfect, yeah.
They'll come with that filled out. So it really helps preempt a lot of the questions we're gonna ask each one of them anyway.
Yeah.
And it formats it so that we get 3 sets of answers.
It's going to be like a link to their 90s.
You get that.
We have the 990s. We can provide those.
We get a link to it so that we might be able to like preview it before we walk in the door with them and ask them questions if there's questions we have.
We have a digital copy. We can.
Oh, you do? Okay. Great. Excellent.
Motion to adjourn? Amy and seconded by Jim Myers. All right, thanks all. And